On today's show, the energy level on Sunday for the Cavs wasn't where Kenny Atkinson thought it would be. We'll talk about that. Plus, it wasn't why they lost, but it sure did not help. We will talk about the shot clock violation that wasn't on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode, of course, is brought to you by FanDuel, because right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $250 in bonus bet when your first $5 bet wins with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday lost to the Sacramento Kings 120-113 in a game that I thought was disappointing on a number of fronts. Now, we will talk at some point in the show about Donovan Mitchell's ankle injury, that he did have to leave the game and came back, but we will discuss that. We'll talk about the shot clock violation that should have been called in the final minute that wasn't called, that did probably change this game at least a little bit. But I do think overall, this has to start with the Cavs didn't have the energy that Kenny Atkinson thought they would have coming off of a win in San Antonio, but a game that they should have won by much more than just 1 point, and that they probably deserved to lose on Friday night against the Kings. Then they didn't, I don't want to say they no-showed, because that's not true. They certainly had stints where they looked good. But overall, I just didn't think that the energy level was where it needed to be for a game this time of year. And I don't know if that's something that you want to say is concerning. Like, this loss isn't the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. The Cavs' magic number to clinch the top seed in the East is still 1. That hasn't changed. Like, all those things are going to be true. This game, if anything, like, has any playoff effect, it's, well, now, even with OKC losing to the Lakers on Sunday, the Cavs are probably not going to be able to track them down for that #1 overall seed. But this was a game that I thought the Cavs would come out with a little bit more intensity. I thought they'd be better defensively. And for them to have the type of game where I thought had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, if you will. They made a lot of mistakes, and I don't think you have to look any further than the fact that Sacramento had 37 points off of 16 Cavs turnovers on Sunday. Like, that to me is a telltale sign of that is a team that made a lot of mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes offensively. They made a lot of mistakes defensively. They didn't shoot the basketball well. But I do think at the end of the day with this one, it's going to come down, because the Cavs have not shot the ball well for about a month now. And I know I talked about it a little bit at the end of last week, and I'll probably talk about it on tomorrow's show too, because if there's one thing that you should be concerned about with this team, it's that where did the three-point shooting go? Like, they were the #1 three-point shooting team in basketball, and they've been a bottom 10, bottom 5 three-point shooting team over the last month. Like, if there's one thing that is concerning, that's the thing to be concerned about, I think. But DeMar DeRozan, 28 points on 10 of 18 shooting. That's a really good game for DeMar. And yeah, he hit a couple threes, which is not part of his game. And he hit a lot of tough shots. And you have to give him credit for some of the shots that he hit, because they were really, really difficult looks. Not all poor defense, but I do think, and actually save that for a second. Domantas Sabonis, 27 points on 11 of 16 shooting, 9 boards, 7 assists. Zach LaVine, 37 points on 15 of 21 shooting. The Cavs did not do a nearly, remotely, even close to good enough job defending the 3 best players for the Kings. Like, if you look at the Kings roster, who do you think is going to beat you? It's going to be DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine or Domantas Sabonis. Like, those are the 3 guys. And yeah, we could talk about what Devin Carter did against the Cavs when they played in Sacramento, or the fact that maybe Keon Ellis hit a couple of big shots for the Kings in this game. But ultimately, the way to stop the Kings is to slow down their best players. And that is something that the Cavs did a really, really poor job of on Sunday night. They didn't deserve to win this game, not because of the shot clock violation, which again, we're going to talk about, but they didn't deserve this game because they weren't locked in enough defensively. I did think that at halftime, it seemed very clear to me in when the Cavs again closed out the first half poorly, but at halftime, like, I don't know what the message was. I didn't ask Kenny Atkinson or any of the players about it because there were just other things to ask about that were more pressing after this game. But it was very clear to me. If you go back and watch like the first 4 defensive possessions that the Cavs had in the second half, it was very clear to me, oh, Kenny Atkinson got into them about the way they're defending. Because go back, watch the first couple possessions. They looked great defensively against the Kings on their first few possessions. And then Donovan Mitchell rolls his ankle and is down. The Cavs call a timeout. You could hear a pin drop in that arena. And it was, the Cavs lost all their energy. Like that defensive energy that they had for a very minor moment in this game just absolutely disappeared when Donovan Mitchell left the game. It didn't happen like that because Donovan Mitchell subbed out. It happened like that because I presume it was on everybody's minds. Oh man, like how what's Donovan's ankle like? Like, is Donovan gonna like miss some serious time here? It was almost as if you saw the season flash before your eyes at a certain point with that injury. Now, of course, Donovan came back. He played the entire fourth quarter. I will talk about his ankle in the third segment of this show because I don't think it's crazy to think he might miss some time with it, despite the fact that he did play the entire fourth quarter. But I thought the Cavs' energy just disappeared after that moment. From that point on, in the third quarter, the Kings outscored the Cavs 35-17. That's what happened there. And they never were able to. Now, they fought back. They took a lead after trailing by as many as 12 near the end of the quarter. But ultimately, that's where this game was lost because they let the Kings get far too comfortable. And I think that is something that we find too often with this team. I think lately, the Cavs have been allowing, and it doesn't happen every game, but I do think that there are times, and maybe this is something to be said about maybe switching up the starting lineup. Not that DeAndre Hunter was, played in good lineups on Sunday. I don't know that he necessarily had a bad night, but he was a minus 28 in 22 minutes. I do wonder if opponents are getting a little too comfortable against the Cavs early on in games. Because as we saw, and listen, I think Sacramento deserves a lot of credit. I think DeMar DeRozan deserves a lot of credit for some of the shots he hit. I think Zach LaVine deserves a lot of credit for some of the shots that he hit in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. They hit some really, really tough shots over what I thought was good defense by the Cavs. And when that happens, you got to tip your hat. But I do wonder, is that more or less likely to happen if those guys can kind of find a zone earlier on in the game? And that's what I thought happened for the Kings. I thought that they were able to find a comfort zone. Like Domantas Sabonis in the first quarter had 15 points and 5 rebounds. He was awesome in the first quarter. He was great. And, he didn't necessarily have a huge scoring night, but 27 points for him is a really, really good night. Now, yeah, it was third on the team, which is another problem for the Cavs in itself. But overall, I do wonder, are they allowing opponents to find a comfort zone early on in the game that those opponents are then able to carry over later into games? And that is something that I do think is just worth pondering here. And then they hit tough shots and you give them credit for those tough shots. But the Cavs right now, I don't think are playing well enough on either end of the floor. They're not shooting the ball well from beyond the arc. They were 10 of 38. That's 26% for those of you keeping score at home. And that's another, and against the Spurs, they had a really good night shooting threes. But that's been the outlier lately. And what this game is for the season is a shooting outlier game. The problem is for the last month or so, it's not. The Cavs were the number one three-point shooting team in basketball from the start of the season until the day they played the Portland Trail Blazers at the start of March. Since then, they are a bottom 5 team, I believe, in three-point percentage. I don't know what the updated numbers are after tonight, but they were like 23rd going into Sunday. I would imagine they're going to drop to at least 25th or 26th with this performance. That is something maybe to be worried about. But when you're not making shots with the Cavs, we're not. When, as Kenny Atkinson, because I asked him about the defense after this game, said, quite honestly, we made a lot of mistakes defensively, and they tried blitzing at times. That didn't necessarily work. They just, once again, couldn't find a way to get stops when it mattered most. And I think that is something, if there's something to take away from this game, it's wondering, well, why are opponents seemingly having these games against the Cavs? Because it's not as if the end of game defense is all that bad, I don't think. I do think opponents are able to find their spots earlier in games, and maybe the Cavs, I really do not believe that the Cavs had the appropriate intensity level throughout the night. And I think that led to Sacramento being able to have as good of a night as they did. Now, give credit where it's due to Zach LaVine, to DeMar DeRozan, to Domantas Sabonis. Those guys played really, really well. But I do think that this is more of a Cavs thing, that the Cavs need to find ways to limit this. And this is not something like you should not be pressing the panic button over this. There are 4 games left. This is a team that I don't think doesn't care. Like, I just don't think that's true after being in the locker room following this game. Like, I do think the Cavs really wanted to win, but ultimately the Cavs didn't win or lose the title because they lost to the Kings on Sunday night. And I think that needs to be remembered when having discourse about this game, because they're still going to be the 1 seed in the East. That's not going to change. I do think it's important how they respond on Tuesday against Chicago. I think that will be a really important thing, because one of the things that Donovan Mitchell said after this game that really stuck out to me is he was asked about not clinching the top seed in the Eastern Conference, which had the Cavs beaten the Kings, they would have. He said, go get it on Tuesday. How do you respond? This is the equivalent to a playoff loss at the crib. How do you respond? We play in a day and a half, so we'll go from there. I thought that was telling. The fact that he compared this to, and of course, the stakes in this game were not the same as a playoff game. Not even close. The intensity of this game, not even close to a playoff game. But the fact that he compared this situation to a playoff loss tells me that Tuesday's game against Chicago is a message type of game. Either the Cavs will get it or they won't. I don't know what's going to happen. I think Donovan Mitchell's availability for that game could be up in the air. We don't know. At least not as I'm recording this at 10:30 on Sunday night. But Tuesday will be interesting. I think Tuesday's game against Chicago, given what happened on Sunday, you can make the case is more important than Sunday's game. Because if the Cavs come out on Tuesday against Chicago and look like a team that's ready for the postseason, in contrast to a team that on Sunday I don't think looked like a team ready for the postseason, then I think this game is much easier to flush. If they don't, then I think you start to grow a little bit wary of the Cavs, considering, and this is not just based on this game. This is based on the last month of basketball. So the one thing that was a big topic of conversation that needs to be addressed, the shot clock violation that wasn't. We're going to talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it can be easy to lose track of all that cash. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, because they'll be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending right in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building that wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for some of those long-term goals that I know you have. Plus, managing money with your partner can be smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all of the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDONNBA, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get half off your first year. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the podcast anywhere you get them, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Make sure you're also locked into the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage that's delivered right to your inbox every weekday. You can sign up for free right now at lockedondaily.com. That is lockedondaily.com. So there was a play in the final minute of this game that absolutely changed this game. I don't know that the Cavs win this game if this play goes the other way, but it certainly didn't help them. And that was the shot clock violation that was not called. So with 46 seconds left in regulation, obviously at the end of a possession, Zach LaVine lays the ball in for the Sacramento Kings. And the ball was still in his hands when the shot clock went off. The play was not reviewed by the officials. It should have been. The officials screwed up. I asked Kenny Atkinson about this after the game because, again, this was not a play that, the Cavs don't necessarily win this game if this play goes their way, if this call is made correctly. And of course, when the last 2-minute report comes out today, I'm sure everyone will feel better because it will admit that the officials made a mistake. Not that it's going to matter, but that's what's going to happen. So I asked Kenny, I said, what was the explanation as to why the basket wasn't reviewed for a shot clock violation? And Kenny said, they said they couldn't review it. I guess they missed it. They didn't even admit they missed it. You can't review that. I don't know. We make errors. We make mistakes. They make mistakes. They're not perfect. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. That's not why we lost the game. But ultimately, it was not reviewed. And there was a pool report done by Ethan Sands of Cleveland.com, where Ethan talked with Courtney Kirkland, who was the crew chief for this game. He was the lead official, and he was asked about this play. And Kirkland said, well, we made a mistake. During live action, we thought that LaVine released the ball prior to the expiration of the shot clock. If we were going to review it, we would have had to review it before the ball was legally touched on the floor during the throw-in, right after the made basket. So here is my biggest issue with this. And again, the Cavs did not lose this game because this was improperly called. They lost this game because they didn't defend well enough and because they didn't have the proper intensity level and because they shot 26% from three. But this is an issue. Like, imagine if this were to happen in a postseason game where that play wouldn't be reviewed. And it's not as if this crew was shy about going to the monitor, right? Like if we were in an era of the NBA where nothing got reviewed, it'd be a different thing. And I kind of wish we were in that era. But there were 5-6 plays that were reviewed on Sunday night, and this wasn't one of them. I mean, there was a 3-pointer that Zach LaVine made where his foot was close to being on the line with 1:50 left in regulation. And immediately after the ball goes through the net, there's a whistle and they want to stop to review it. And it was upheld as a 3. That was the right call. They got it right on the floor. But the fact that the game was stopped for that, but it wasn't stopped for a potential shot clock violation on what was, maybe that was essentially the game-winning basket for the Kings. Like when that went in, the Cavs' chances of winning went down to basically nothing. Why was that not stopped? It was the biggest possession of the game. The referees had shown that they're more than willing to stop the game to check things out, right or wrong. Like they were more than willing to do it. In today's day and age, they are more than willing to do it. That's not a play, I believe, that the Cavs are able to challenge. How come that can't get overturned? And yes, it's near the end of the game, but it's not as if we go through games and the score's not changed all the time, right? Like if you are watching these games at home, how frequently are you watching a game and after a commercial break, John Michael will go on FanDuel Sports Network. Well, welcome back. You may notice the score has changed. A 3-point basket has been overturned to a 2-point basket, or a 2-point basket has been upgraded to a 3-point basket, or a play came after the shot clock. But like we see that all the time during the course of the game because the NBA cares about getting it right. And I think generally that's the right way to do it, where they will review these things during a stoppage in play and it doesn't interrupt the game and they get it right. And ultimately, they're going to get things wrong, but they do their best to get things right. So what I don't understand is how come in the final minute of the game, they didn't get this right when it was very clear and obvious. Like it took one look at the replay to see, oh yeah, that was very clearly a shot clock violation. Zach LaVine still had the ball in his hands. It would have taken 10 seconds for Courtney Kirkland to go over the monitor and review it, but they decided not to stop the game. And, maybe they could put the blame on the Cavs for trying to go too quickly, but there were foul shots really shortly after that. Why is it not being reviewed then? When Donovan Mitchell steps out of bounds, which again, they got that call right. When he steps out of bounds before being fouled on a 3-pointer, that gets reviewed, but a shot clock violation doesn't. I guess that's just my biggest issue. It's not necessarily that they got it wrong versus they got it right. Obviously, you want to see the officials get things right all the time, and they're never going to. They're human. They have a very, very difficult job. But I think that this is a broken process. The fact that what was arguably the biggest play in the game wasn't reviewed when a bunch of plays that were not as significant, either by challenge or by referee stoppages, were reviewed when they get reviewed routinely in the NBA. How come this one wasn't? That to me is a process that very clearly needs to be more closely examined, because you can just look at this and say, hey, got that one wrong. Because this happens in a game against the Kings that ultimately is not going to affect anything with the Cavs season. Like I said in the first segment, they didn't lose the championship because they lost to the Kings on Sunday night. Had they won this game, they would not have won the championship. Those things will be decided in late April, May, and early June. But what if something like this happens and this is how it's treated in the postseason? That, I think, should be the most concerning part about this is, how does this slip through the cracks when it was a really big moment in the game, very clearly the wrong call? There are avenues to correct it, and it wasn't corrected. That's the thing that you look at and say, you know what, don't necessarily feel too great about that. But there are other things to get to here, like, Donovan Mitchell's ankle. He left the game, did return. What does that mean? Should we expect him to miss some time? We'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is, of course, America's #1 sports book, and the NBA playoffs are almost here. As I've been mentioning, FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action, because right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250, $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into some player props. Like me, I know, listen, playoffs aren't here, but baseball is here. So what I did the other night, I bet a certain player to hit a home run. A certain player did not hit a home run on Saturday night. So I said, you know what? I'm going to run it back. We're going to try this again on Sunday. Said player hit a home run on Sunday. I won on FanDuel, and you can do the same. And if it's a $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. So from 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props this basketball season. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live bet props into a same game parlay for your chance to win big. So like I said, your first $5 bet, if it wins, you get $250 in bonus bets with FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Again, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show on YouTube. And if you're watching right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Donovan Mitchell left the game at the 9-minute and 54-second mark of the third quarter. And it was at that moment, I think everybody thought, oh man, this Cavs season might be in trouble. And Donovan it looked to me as if he stepped on Keon Ellis's foot, rolled his left ankle, and then, the Cavs got to stop. Max Strus got a rebound. Kenny Atkinson called timeout. Donovan Mitchell was rolling in pain on the far sideline opposite the Cavs bench, holding his left ankle. He did walk off under his own power, very, very gingerly. Of course, he was with a couple of members of the Cavs medical staff, and he went directly back to the locker room. And he was probably in there for, it probably felt longer than it actually was, but during the time that he was in the locker room, and I want to get this timing exact, but during the time that he was in the locker room, that was a very, very, I think, tense time in that arena. And he was in there for 12 minutes. Those 12 minutes, it felt like the Cavs season was hanging in the balance. Now, he did return to the game. Ultimately, it was just deemed a left ankle injury, and he, was probable to return. Obviously, he did return. He played the entire fourth quarter, which I think is a really good sign. he didn't move around the best during that time. I think especially the later on it got in the game, the worse he kind of started moving around. Like I do think that there's probably for him, probably an adrenaline boost that helped him through the initial pain. In the locker room, he was not moving around the best. He was not in a walking boot or anything like that. He didn't have any support on it. When I saw him, when he spoke to the media, he was just wearing socks. So that I guess is a good sign. But with these types of injuries, it's kind of always about the next day. What is Donovan Mitchell going to wake up feeling like on Monday? And I think that's going to give us a big answer as far as whether or not he's available on Tuesday against Chicago. Given this type of injury, given where the Cavs are at in the standings, I would not rule it out that Donovan Mitchell might miss time. Maybe he doesn't play on Tuesday. And I think that would be a really big thing for the Cavs against the Chicago Bulls. Now, of course, they've been really good in games that he has not played this year, some of which have come against some not great opponents, but the Cavs have not lost a game. I believe they're 7-0 or 6-0 when Donovan Mitchell misses a game. But to see the star player go down, and I think that to this point, Donovan has obviously been the most important guy on the Cavs. But to see him go down, I think was something that sucked a lot of the energy out of that building. Now, of course, the place got loud when he walked out of the tunnel, which happened during a Kings timeout for a challenge. The place got loud when he checked back into the game. But ultimately, the Cavs are not going to be able to achieve their goals without Donovan Mitchell and without Donovan Mitchell being who Donovan Mitchell has been. So we don't know if he's going to be available on Tuesday. That doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is there are 2 weeks between right now, which is as I record this Sunday, April 6th, and Sunday, April 20th. Why is April 20th important? Well, for some of you, maybe some reason. But it's important because Sunday, April 20th will be the day the Cavs play their first playoff game. The Cavs need Donovan Mitchell to be at or near 100%. They need Darius Garland to be like that. They need Evan Mobley to be like that. They need as many guys as possible to be like that. But some of them are more important than others. And the healthier Donovan Mitchell is, when that day arrives, the better off the Cavs will be. And I think it'll be very important to see how this team responds to this, how obviously Donovan's ankle responds to sleep. Truthfully, like those things, those types of injuries can swell up overnight. What's that going to look like? I presume he's going to be getting quite a bit of treatment, but it would not surprise me. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he won't. I'm saying I would not be surprised if Donovan Mitchell misses a little bit of time. I would be surprised if he plays in every game the rest of the way, just because I think ultimately the Cavs are probably going to try and find him some rest once they do clinch that top seed. But this is something to monitor. It is, I think, an important thing to keep an eye on. So that was, but ultimately, like the Cavs lost this game. If Donovan Mitchell's ankle is fine, then this loss doesn't matter. Now, if they lost this game and Donovan Mitchell's going to miss time, then this stings twice as bad. But this loss means nothing if Donovan Mitchell is okay. You take that trade every day of the week. In this game, I do want to say I thought Isaac Okoro, again, played really, really good. I thought he had some good minutes against San Antonio. I thought he had some really good minutes against the Kings. He was really, if you look at the box score in the plus-minus category, does not necessarily say, oh, this guy did impact the game that much. But Isaac Okoro played 17 minutes, was 3 of 3 from the floor, a plus 20 in 17 minutes. That was obviously the best number of the game. Dean Wade played 3.5 minutes. He was a plus 6. Max Strus played 30 minutes, 28 minutes, and was a plus 6 as well. But Isaac Okoro's number obviously really jumps out. Thought he did some really good things. And then Ty Jerome in his first game back from a 5-game absence with knee tendonitis. Ty was awesome. He was 9 of 13 from the floor. He had 20 points. Only 1 of 4 from 3, which again, a team-wide thing. They're just not shooting the basketball well right now. And that really needs to change before the postseason arrives. But it was good to see Ty back on the floor. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he was moving around really good. Not that he's necessarily a guy that depends on speed to be successful, but I thought Ty looked pretty good. And that's another good sign to take away from this game for the Cavs. But ultimately, their magic number is still 1. They need to find a way to win a game. They've got 4 left against Chicago Indiana twice, one of which in Indianapolis on Thursday, and the New York Knicks on Friday. If they find a way to win one of those games, which of course they will be the top seed in the Eastern Conference. The next game is Chicago at home. We'll see if Donovan Mitchell plays. We will be talking about that. I'm sure I will wait until after the injury report comes out on Monday to record the episode. So we will be talking about that and so much more on tomorrow's episode of Locked on Cavs. But thank you for making this show and every show your first listen today and every day. You can find Locked on Cavs anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked on Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button before we get out of here. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cavs.